Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my October and November wrap up. I read a total of 13 books in the last 2 months. I read 7 in October and 6 in November. I'm actually really happy with what I read in the last 2 months. I had 2 5-stars. I had a couple strong 4-stars, and I just feel like overall it was a decent 2 months reading wise. Actually, I'm looking now and I had 3 5-stars, which is pretty good. I have a lot of books to discuss today, so I'm just going to jump straight in. And the first book that I read in October was Gothic Anna by Rue Nix. This I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I had initially given it 4, but a couple days went by and I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I changed my rating to 5. This follows Corvina, who has always been kind of an unusual girl. She's always lived hidden away with her mother, but she gets this acceptance letter to this very mysterious college, and she decides to go, and it is in the middle of nowhere in this big castle, and there's this very mysterious thing happening where people go missing or end up dead, and Corvina ends up falling in love with her professor, who is very mysterious and has a lot of secrets. This is definitely a book to go into blind. I really didn't know anything about this other than it took place at a school in a castle kind of, and I just loved this. I loved the atmosphere, I loved the vibes, I loved the characters, I really enjoyed the romance. It was dark academia with a heavy amount of romance, which I love, and it just had a lot of things that I absolutely loved. And the mystery, I really didn't see anything coming. There were a couple plot twists that I really didn't see coming, so I felt like that was really well done. I think what really did sell me on this book is the romance and just the overall vibe. I also really liked Corvina as a female character. I just thought she was innocent but not necessarily a pushover. I just really enjoyed this book, and it is definitely one of my favorites of the year. It was just so good, and I really wish I would have annotated it, but I wasn't in the mood to annotate, but I feel like I will reread this at some point and annotate it. Then I finally read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I had initially given it 4, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought it was kind of a 3-star read. I honestly don't really know how to explain this. This follows Violet, who goes to this college where you are basically put through all these challenges to become a dragon rider, to bond with a dragon, and in that process you can die. There's, of course, a hate to love relationship in here. There were qualities I liked in this book. I liked the dragon element. I will say the first half of this book is quite boring. I found it kind of slow, and it picked up when we finally got to see some of the dragons and meet some of the dragons. That aspect I was really enjoying. I did like the romance aspect in here, but I wasn't super obsessed with it. I don't plan on continuing the series. I was going to after I finished it because I was very much in the bubble of finishing a book, and you get excited for the next one. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't really care about reading the second book. And I don't know about you guys, but I often feel like when a fandom is so overwhelmingly loud and just all in your face, I really don't want to continue a series because of that. So I just don't really care, and I am not going to read the next book. I really liked the dragon aspect though, so if you have any good fantasy recommendations with dragons, please leave them down below, especially if they have a romance element. I really want to read more dragon fantasy romance books. The next few I actually have mentioned in 2 different vlogs, so I will link both of those vlogs down below if you want additional information on them. I think I talked about most of these at length in those vlogs. I think I either started the books or I finished them in those vlogs, I'm pretty sure. It's been a while, so I can't fully remember. But I read Dreams of a Dark Warrior by Kresley Cole. This is actually the 10th book in the Immortals After Dark series. I thought it was the 9th book, but Goodreads says it's the 10th book. This I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This follows Regin, who is part of the Valkyrie, and she has been I guess, cursed to fall in love with this guy, and before they get married and consummate their relationship, he ends up dying and then gets reincarnated a few years later. So Regin comes across Declan, who essentially kidnaps her because he is part of this organization where they are trying to research supernatural creatures, and he is like fighting, I guess, who he truly is. And of course, like, Regin is his soulmate, I guess. I just didn't really like the plot. I didn't really like the story or the characters. I didn't enjoy the like present day setting. I enjoyed the beginning where we were kind of like in this like ancient time, I guess, and I enjoyed that part, but I didn't really like anything about this book. The smut was good, but that was kind of it. Like, I didn't really like this book, which sucks, but I wanted to push through because I want to read the next book, which is about Lothair, and I own that book, so I want to read the next one. But yeah, this one was definitely my least favorite in the entire series that I've read so far anyways. Then I read Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This was really good, but I did find it kind of slow. I did really love reading this book and getting to see the differences between the movie and the book and what they changed and everything, and I don't know, it was just fun to read this, I guess. It is also now interesting to get like a different perspective on Ginny, like book Ginny versus movie Ginny, because I didn't really like movie Ginny, but I actually really like her in the book. And I think I do have a little bit more of a smaller appreciation for her in the movie, even though she is quite different, but I love Ginny in the books, and I love Harry's relationship with her. This is not my favorite in the series, but I still really loved it, and I'm very happy that I'm reading the Harry Potter series. Obviously, I did finish it in November, but I loved reading this. Then the only ebook I read was Into the Tide by Laura Pavlov. This is the first book in the Cottonwood Cove series, and this I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This follows Lila James, who moves home for the summer. She's back from college, and she decides to help out her brother's best friend at his restaurant. So she kind of works there now to help him because he's kind of struggling. And Lila James has always had a crush on him, but he's always been kind of a little bit of a player, and she's 5 years younger than him. But obviously they spend a lot more time together and things evolve. I somewhat enjoyed this. Like, there were aspects I liked. I liked the small town vibes. I did like Lila James, and the male character, I don't remember his name. Oh, Hugh. Hugh was his name. I did like them as characters, but I just wasn't obsessed with their romance, and I don't know, it just wasn't a book that really stood out to me. I just found it very mediocre and forgettable. Then I read Charlie, Love and Clichés by Ella Mays. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This follows Charlie, who works for her dad's company, and they get a new employee who will be sort of her boss, I guess, and turns out that he is a guy who stood her up a couple years ago, and when they see each other at work, Charlie assumes that he doesn't remember her, but does he? I did like this book. It was very sweet and very cute. It was very fluffy. I liked Charlie and William, and I did feel their connection. I just wasn't super obsessed with this book. I feel like the first 100 pages were just about Charlie talking about her wanting to like move and do all these things with her life, but not actually doing any of them. And it just felt like she was repeating that over and over again. I did love how William was very protective of Charlie, and he really like stood up for her a lot. I felt that they had like a deep connection. I just wasn't super obsessed with their romance, and I don't know, it was just kind of slow as well. There was just something missing for me, and I can't exactly figure out what was missing, but I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It was just all right. And then the last book I read in October was You Said I Was Your Favorite by Monica Murphy. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It follows Daisy, who is very much a good girl. She's very studious. She kind of comes from a very poor, unfortunate family. And Arch is a Lancaster. His family owns the school, and he is very wealthy. He is kind of reckless, kind of a bad boy. Arch starts noticing Daisy more and They kind of have a little bit of a banter going on. An incident ends up happening and they're both kind of punished, and they have to work in the headmaster's office every day, so they are stuck together. Obviously, I really liked this. I annotated it. I didn't fully love it because I do remember finishing it and feeling like it didn't really stick with me. I think I loved A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime more, but this was still a really good opposites attract, good girl, bad boy romance. I obviously liked the boarding school, old money vibes, and I really enjoyed both characters, like Daisy and Arch. I liked both of them separately, and then I liked them together, and I liked how they both kind of just slowly fell for each other. Even though I really loved it, I do still feel like it was kind of a very basic, safe romance, if that makes sense. A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime was a lot more like shocking and dramatic, I guess, and this one was just very safe, if that makes sense, and there wasn't much plot, nor was there like a lot of conflict. I feel like the conflict was mainly just like the parents, but regardless, I still really enjoyed it, and it probably will be one of my favorite books of the year because it still was fun and I loved annotating it. I think annotating always adds an extra reading experience, so I did enjoy this. I just didn't love it as much as I thought I would, I guess. So that was everything for October. Now on to everything I read in November. So the first thing that I read was Reckless by Elsie Silver. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This follows Theo, who is a bull rider, and he is very much a player. And then we have Winter, who is a doctor, and she is leaving her very toxic marriage, and she's moving to Chestnut Springs to essentially be closer to her estranged sister. Theo and Winter meet basically when she gets there. Winter does not like Theo. He is way too arrogant for her, and she's just trying to focus on her new path. But Theo is very, very persistent, and they end up having a one-night stand, which leaves Winter pregnant. I loved this book. I mentioned this in my book haul when I hauled this, but if you didn't watch that, I read Flawless and Heartless, which are the first 2 books in the series, and I didn't really enjoy them. I gave them 3 stars. I just thought they were mediocre. I didn't really understand all of the hype. I told myself that I was not going to continue the series. Like, I was done with Elsie Silver. I didn't like the first 2 books I read by her. I didn't find myself wanting to continue. And then Hopeless had just come out, and I was interested. I thought maybe I should give Elsie Silver a 3rd try. Like, maybe I should read one more in the series. I decided to skip Powerless because I wasn't really interested in Sloane and Jasper's story, and I jumped into Theo and Winter's story, and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with this book. Obviously, I gave it 4 stars, and I just read this entire thing in a day. I couldn't stop reading. I was so addicted, and when I finished it, I was like, I get it now. I get why everybody loves this series, why it is so hyped. I get why people love Elsie Silver. I loved both Winter and Theo so much, and I loved their relationship, and I loved just the overall plot and story of this book. Like, I love a surprise pregnancy, a secret baby trope. Like, that is one of my favorite tropes ever. So I loved that aspect in this book. I thought it was really, really well done. I did feel like the end kind of dragged. Like, there was definitely things that could have been cut out or a little bit shorter, but overall I really enjoyed this book, and I'm definitely going to read Elsie Silver's new series that is coming out next year. I'm very excited. Then I read King of Greed by Anna Huang. This is the 3rd book in the Kings of Sin series. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This follows Dominic, who is a very successful businessman. He is a billionaire, and he has been married to Alessandra for I think like 10 years, and Alessandra has been feeling very neglected in their marriage, so she decides to leave Dominic. This is obviously a second chance romance, marriage in trouble sort of. I liked that aspect of the book, but I didn't love it. It was so short. This book could have been an extra 100 pages, and I think I would have liked it a lot more. I liked Alessandra and Dominic. I liked them as characters. I liked their relationship, but I feel like we barely got to see their actual relationship. It was a lot of telling and not necessarily showing, and I definitely wanted Dominic to grovel a lot more. And I feel like we could have had way more scenes of them falling in love, like in the beginning, and then them also re-falling in love again. It could have been 400 pages with like some more tension, some more grovel, some more like angst. And I just feel like it really wasn't there. This is the third book that I've read by Ana Huang. I read King of Wrath and Twisted Love, and I have either given them 2 or 3 stars. So I'm officially done with Ana Huang. This was my third and final try with her. I just don't really enjoy her books. I feel like they kind of lack in certain areas for me and what I like in romance books. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed out, but I am glad I did give this one a try. Then I read Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the 5th and final book in the Chestnut Springs series, and this I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This follows Beau, who is basically royalty in their town. He is a military hero, and he is recently back from his military duties, and he's suffering from a lot of PTSD. He is kind of struggling to figure out what he wants to do with his life, so he ends up in the local bar where he meets Bailey, who works the bar. She's like a bartender, and Bailey comes from a very rough, troubled family, and the town basically hates her family, and because she's associated with them, obviously they also hate her. So she feels like she can't really escape the town and have like a normal life. And she is very much jealous of Beau, who has this very well-loved family. Beau basically feels sorry for Bailey, so he offers to fake date and actually be fake engaged so that Bailey can be free in the town without people harassing her or being mean to her. I feel like I poorly explained this book, but I loved this book so much. It had everything I loved about it. It had an age gap. It had fake engagement, like fake relationship. There was a lot of banter between Beau and Bailey. I just really loved everything about this book. The romance, the characters, the vibe, the setting. I loved how both Bailey and Beau kind of took care of each other and then also encouraged each other to chase their own dreams, even if they aren't a part of each other's lives. And I love how Beau did a lot of action for Bailey. Like, he was more about action than words, and I just loved that. And it was just so good, and I love the whole family. It was obviously one of my favorite books of the year. It was just so good, and I really wish I annotated it, but I was just breezing through it. And I also read this one in an entire day, and I loved every minute of it. Then I read Collide by Belle Cabra. This is the first book in the Off the Ice series. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is a college new adult romance, and it follows Summer, who gets a ultimatum from her professor to work on this project that she needs to team up with a hockey player on, and she gets teamed up with Aiden, who is the captain of the hockey team. This is also kind of a punishment for him for something that happened, so they're both not really wanting to work together, but obviously the more time that they spend together, the more they like each other. This is definitely boy falls first, boy falls harder. I did like their relationship, and I liked how Aiden was so into Summer. I just felt like it kind of dragged, and I wasn't super obsessed with their romance. It was very cute, very fluffy. It just wasn't very memorable, and I kind of already forget a lot about this book, so I didn't love it that much. Then I finally read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. This I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This was amazing. I loved this book. I think I genuinely loved it more than I loved the movies, to be honest. I will say the Cloak of Invisibility is way more in the series, like in the books, than in the movies. Like, it is a very prominent part of the books, which makes sense because, especially for this book, obviously it's part of the Deathly Hallows. I loved this. I loved getting a little bit more backstory on Dumbledore than we get in the movies. Also, if you don't know, this is like my first time reading the books. I love the movies. I have watched them ever since I was little, but I've never read the books. So everything that I've learned has been from this first experience reading the books, because I would say I'm not like huge in the fandom, so I don't know a lot of like the lore and everything. I mean, now I do, but before that I didn't. I also just sobbed while I read this book. Like the beginning, obviously I sobbed for 2 reasons. I sobbed some more and I cried a lot during this book. I feel like I was just overwhelmed with emotion and just sadness for certain characters, certain deaths, certain circumstances, certain things that happened. I just cried a lot and it was so emotional, and I can't believe that I am officially done the Harry Potter series. I can't believe I finally read this entire series this year. Like, I really didn't think I would get past Prisoner of Azkaban this year, even though obviously I had high hopes that I would finish the series in November. I just didn't really think I would, and I did it. And I am so happy and proud of myself because this has been a series that I've been needing to read, I think, since like 2011, 2012. I've been putting it off for that long, and I'm so happy I read it and loved it. It was just so good. And I can definitely see myself rereading these books in a couple of years because it was just so fun to read them and emotional, but so fun. And then the last book that I read in November was Night Shift by Annie Crown. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. When a college bookworm and the campus basketball star share a sexy encounter in the library stacks, things get complicated. It essentially just follows Kendall and Vincent, who are very much opposite. Vincent is obviously a basketball star and he's very outgoing. He has a lot of friends. He's kind of a partier. He's not that studious. And we have Kendall, who is a bookworm. She doesn't really like interacting with people. She's very much an introvert, and she works her Friday nights at a 24/7 library. She works the night shift, and they are just very much opposite, but they are very attracted to each other, and they kind of bond, I guess, over poetry. I had just seen this around on Goodreads, and a lot of people were giving it very high ratings. I just decided to give this a try. I picked it up. It was cute. It was fluffy. It was very fast paced. You literally jump into the story right then and there. Like, it happens, the encounter between Kendall and Vincent happens literally on page 6. Like, they bump into each other right at the beginning, and I liked that. I liked how we straight up jumped into the story and it got things rolling. We weren't building up all of this backstory between the characters. Overall, this book was very fast-paced, which I enjoyed. That's why often I find it hard to start books lately, because we don't jump into the story like until 50 pages in. This one, you're getting into the story right then and there, which made it addicting to read because you just wanted to keep reading to see what happened. Even though I didn't love this, I do think this was the perfect book to read after I finished Harry Potter. It was just like the perfect little palate cleanser. Nothing super emotionally heavy, but still entertaining and somewhat captivating. So those were all 13 books that I read in the last 2 months. Let me know if you have read any of the books that I talked about and what you think about them, or let me know what books you've read recently and maybe some of your new favorites. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.